Welcome to the online class from Dhaka Secondary School, North Karachi campus. Assalamu alaikum students of class 8 in the online class of social studies. We are going to start a new chapter number 14, international problems, and I'm your teacher Miss Uzma. This chapter is about current international conflict with special references to the Islamic countries. You will know about the wars between Palestine and Israel, the Middle East conflict, the Iran-Iraq war, the Gulf War, the war on Iraq, the Kashmir problem, and Bosnia and Chechnya. Discuss each one separately. First one we are going to discuss is Palestine conflict. The land that is now Palestine or Israel, especially the city of Jerusalem, Baitul Muqaddas, is very holy to three main religions. For Islam, it has the Dome of Rock, Masjid Aqsa, which marks the place where the Holy Prophet ﷺ rose to paradise. For Christian, it is the place where Christ was crucified. Here is the place you can watch. For Jewish, it contains the remain of great temple of Solomon, of which only part of the wall, the Wailing Wall, remains. The Palestine Historic Compromise. Palestine, you can see 100% was the Palestine. In 1947, UN partition plan remained at 44%. In 1967, 22%, and in 2020, it is remaining only 15%. Location of the Palestine, you can see that it is surrounded with the Arab countries basically. In the 7th century, the Muslim armies conquered this land in their drive towards North Africa and Europe. It has since remained in Muslim hands apart from the few periods in the 12th or 13th centuries when it was under the control to the Christians. Crusaders, it was raided by the Mongols, especially Timur, and finally conquered by the Ottoman Turks in 1516 until it was taken by the British in 1917 and 18 in World War I, and this was the basis of much of the present troubles was laid. History of conflict. In these documents issued by Britain and France during World War I, the Palestine conflict, the murky or the darkest area of the history. In the First World War, the McMahon letters promised an independent Arab state in return for Arab help in overthrowing the Turks, whose empire nominally incorporated the eastern end of the Mediterranean. The Sykes-Picot Agreement 1916 was a secret agreement between France and British government to keep the eastern end of the Mediterranean under their control to protect the shipping routes to their colonies through the Suez Canal. It was also to guarantee the pipeline from the Gulf as oil was beginning to become economically significant. The Balfour Declaration 1917, under immense pressure from the USA, especially the Jewish lobby, Britain agreed to set up a state for the Jewish in Palestine. A strict clause has not observed said that the rights and properties of other nations already there should not be affected. The Western allies Britain and France were bogged down in World War I, which had reached an absolute settlement of mutual slaughter and desperately needed the USA's support on their side. When during World War II defeat seemed inevitable for Germany, Jewish gangs turned against Britain. Britain found that Palestine was impossible to control and asked the UN to settle the matter. World opinion was very much in favor of the Jews when the atrocities of the Nazi regime against them. Jews claim that 6 million of them are exterminated in the death camp. The UN, with the strong influence of the US, again divided the land into Jewish and Arab parts. When the state of Israel was declared in 1948, millions of Palestinians were forced out into exile in refugees camps, where many of them still remain. A series of wars since then has resulted in a steady defeat for the Palestinians. In practice, Britain and France were given this area as mandates. What is the meaning of mandate? First, understand this. Mandate is the land which belonged to a nation defeated in a war, which is put in charge of the victorious country, not as a colony or position, but to be supervised and run until it is ready to be independent. And it is done from the leagues of nations because of their wealth. The Americans sent tens of thousands of Jewish settlers to the area, some legally but most illegally. Because of the wealth backing them, they could make the poorer farmers offers they could not refuse. The occupied West Bank was divided into three areas A, B, and C as part of the Oslo Accord signed by the Palestinian Liberation Organization (PLO) and Israel. In this way, Area A is consists on 18%, which is under the Palestinian controls. Area B 22% under joint Israeli and Palestinian control, and Area C 60% under Israeli control. The USA supplies Israel with weapons, and under the influence of a powerful Jewish lobby, veto any motion in the United Nations which criticizes Israel. There is a little the Palestinian can do. The trend towards the suicide bomb attacks on Jewish towns has invariably resulted in savage reprisals by the Israelis. For every Israeli killed by the Palestinian underground forces, at least 10 or 12 Palestinians, often women and children, lose their lives. Israel has an overwhelming military power with tanks, helicopters, and heavy artillery. The Palestinians reply largely with stones. The problem seems as insoluble as ever. The previous Israeli government had offered to withdraw settlements from the Gaza Strip, but not from the more important and profitable left bank. The present government is more hawkish and intransigent. Now, walls are being built to protect the Israelis, and no solution is in sight while the Israeli settlements expand, and for the Palestinians, day to day life is a battle for survival. Questions are in front of you. Study and understand them. Thank you.